Welcome to Undercurrents of Romance, the show that celebrates every subgenre of romantic fiction. In each episode, I peel back the layers of your favorite love stories and chat with the talented authors who bring them to life. I'm your host, Tracey Devlyn. Now, let's dive in with today's guest. Hello, Romantics. I'm here with Sylvia Mercedes to talk about the relaunch of her popular adult romantasy, Heart of the Shadow King. Welcome to the show, Sylvia.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. So you are my first TikTok sensation guest. For those of us who have not yet taken the plunge into that platform, how does one become a TikTok sensation?
I am probably the worst person to ask about that because I still, after all this time, I still don't feel like I understand the app. It feels to me a lot of luck, honestly, but I have a story that I really love, and it happens to be in sync with a lot of the current tastes in the market right now, so that makes a big difference. So a lot of it is just like understanding like what the really key like minutia tropes are that my readers are looking for, and then how to feature those in just a few seconds of a clip. And
Okay.
just kind of rinse and repeat. So,
Yes,
but like I
yes.
said, a lot of it's luck for me. I can't honestly say that I even now understand it.
Well, whatever you're doing, Sylvia, I guess just keep doing it because it's working
Right.
for you, right?
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, besides your success on TikTok, what else can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I am a very busy author. I write both as an independent author and as a trad author these days. So, as you said in the intro, Heart of the Shadow King is a relaunch. So, this trilogy was initially published as an independent series, like I think in 2022 is when the first book launched. And then it took off on TikTok, it took off on Instagram, and made a little bit of a name for itself. And as a result, opened some doors for me. But trad publishing is still relatively new for me. I just published my 28th independent title. So I have been
Congrats.
very, very busy, very
Yeah.
like solidly like fixed in the independent space for going on 6 years now. So it's been a very busy time. I've definitely not slowed down.
Well, that's better than the alternative, I suppose, right?
Right.
So that's wonderful. Well, congratulations on that because I think that being able to have one foot in the independent world and one foot in the trad world is actually a really, really good combination. For those who are a little bit more type A in the independent way is a great
Yes.
way to go because you get to make a few more decisions for yourself and things like that. But trad, it seems to open up a few more of those marketing doors. Not that you're not
So true.
doing a lot of marketing as an independent because you are.
Yeah. True.
But they seem to have a few more doors that open to them that for the traditional public. At least that's my perspective. Is that how you feel
It's
about it
very
too?
true. The big
Yeah.
thing that trad offers that it's a little harder for independent authors is a bookstore
Yeah.
space. Just working with a trad publisher makes all the difference.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm such a bookstore girly myself. I love to go in and actually get my hands on books. I
Yeah,
love to
me
just
too.
be in an atmosphere of books.
Yeah.
So while I am so grateful for the opportunities independent publishing offers, I'm so grateful for the advent of the ebook that literally helped me make my name and make my career. It's just such a delight to know that my books are now on those shelves and that I can actually go into a bookstore and see them there. So that's one of the big changes because, yeah, independent publishers, it's not that we can't get into bookstores, but there's a
Mhm.
lot more hoops to jump through. It's a lot more difficult. And it's really, really nice to have professionals who know what they're doing and have all the right contacts doing what they do best. And then I can do
Yes.
what I do best, which is write more stories.
Absolutely. Well, if you walk into a bookstore and you see this cover, and actually all of the covers of the series, they're just very, very striking. And
Thank you.
kudos to your publisher, your cover designer for these
Yeah.
covers. They're
My cover
just,
designer is her, she goes by Story Wrappers, and you can find her on Instagram. I want to sing her praises everywhere. She is one of
yeah.
my all-time favorites, and I had never had a chance to work with her before. So when my publisher was able to get her on board for this series, I did a little happy dance alone here in my office. So excited to work with her. And she really did
Yeah.
just bring this whole vision to life beautifully. Like
Yeah.
all the credit to her.
Yeah, they're really gorgeous, and I think maybe if before we get too far or into it more, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about Heart of the Shadow King and what these little crystals might mean
Mm.
as part of the series too, because I think they're more than just aesthetic, are they not?
Mm. I mean, they are very aesthetic. Let's give them credit.
They
Yes, indeed.
are.
So, Heart of the Shadow King is book three in my Bride of the Shadow King trilogy. And the story is an arranged marriage tale where we've got a human bride who, through a series of circumstances, is betrothed to a troll king. Now, his people call themselves the trolled folk, not trolls. Trolls are considered a bit of a slur, but he's basically a very good looking troll. So she goes to his underground realm, and while she's there, she begins to discover her own unique magic, which is called her God's gift. She was gifted with this power that she does not understand at all and at the time of her christening. And when it began to manifest, all it did was it seemed to cause her physical pain, and she didn't know how to control it. She didn't know what it was even meant for. It seemed like it was not a gift of the gods at all, quite the opposite, in fact. But once she entered his world, she begins to find herself connecting to these specific crystals in his realm that resonate with her power. And as a result, the story begins to unfold, and you get more of the epic fantasy storylines along with the romance fantasy storylines. And the crystals end up becoming absolutely central to the overall plot, the climax, the resolution, which is why I loved that they featured the crystals so
Yeah,
prominently on
yeah.
all three of the covers. And the other thing that I love about this cover, if you look at the crown in the center, you can see that it's cracked down the middle, like it's beginning to
I've
break
never
apart.
noticed that. I don't
It's
know
a
if it comes through
lovely,
or not.
subtle detail that I just
Yeah,
absolutely love. And it
yeah, right
definitely
there.
it fits with the storyline of his kingdom, which is on the verge of literal collapse. So
Yeah. Oh my
I
gosh.
really I love how they captured that. It was
Yeah.
just beautiful.
Yeah, that's a cover designer who's, who really,
She knows her
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and
Yes.
knows her stuff. And yeah, those little details like that. I've been staring at this book for quite a while, and I had not noticed that crack
Yeah, that little
before. So
subtle crack. Yeah, I love
that's
it.
great. Yeah, yeah. Well, what I loved about, and forgive me if I'm saying this correctly, Forain.
Forain,
Forain,
yes.
Forain.
Forain.
What I loved about Forain, the heroine, is
Mm,
that she's not what I would call like a typical warrior heroine.
mm, mm.
How does her chronic illness make her stronger?
Well, I truly love Heroine. The reason that I wanted to write this character to begin with was that I have women in my life who struggle with chronic illness. And yet I've always seen these women as like warriors in their own right. Like the way that they don't allow themselves to become victimized and they turn themselves into the heroines of their own stories. It's always been so inspiring to me. Like some of these women are the strongest women I've ever known, not physically, but they have like a center of strength that is so admirable. So I
Hmm.
loved the idea of taking a heroine like that and putting her in a fantasy setting where we're so used to more of a sword wielding, epic sort of, jump on the horse and
Yes.
ride into battle sort of heroine. I love the idea of exploring like what would it look like if she literally physically couldn't do those things? And what kind of a journey would she go on as a result? And the two-part journey for Ferenc, it's not just the journey of developing her own powers, but also developing her own perspective on her own self-worth. She has
Mm-hmm.
voices in her life, especially in this third book, that are trying to convince her that in order for her to be worthwhile, she needs to change who she is. She needs to be stronger. She needs to be willing to do like terrible things. But what she comes to understand over the course of the story is that no, who she actually is at her core, who is a kind person, she's a loving person, she's a empathetic person. Those are actually the strengths that will ultimately save the day. And it's such a great, I feel, a two-part storyline for her then. It's not just the actual physical struggle of her powers and her chronic illness, but also that internal personhood struggle of who she wants to be as a person, who she's going to be valued as. So it was a great journey to go on. It was really interesting
Yeah.
to explore.
Yeah, I could see how as an author that would have been really delightful for you because it gives the character so much more depth and so many more things to play with
Mm.
as part of the plot line, it seems to
It's so
me. So
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Vor is a very sumptuous hero. Let's just troll or
I love
non-troll,
that word. Oh,
whatever. Yeah.
yes.
You in this book, you throw a lot at him. You're forcing him to make these big life-altering
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah.
What is his driving force through the series?
So I love Vor as a character too, because I feel that the core of who Vor is he is a man of honor. He wants to do right by the people in his life. He wants to honor the responsibilities that have been placed on his shoulders. He is such a truly honorable hero placed in such an impossible circumstance where
Mhm.
doing the right thing is not clear. And so that's just a wonderful source of contention for him as he's constantly fighting against pull of desire versus belief about honor. He's got different voices of people he cares about, including his own brother, his advisors, his generals, and then this wife that he has come to love so unexpectedly. He's got all these different voices, all these different pressures. And he's the one who's caught in the middle trying to figure out what his path is. So he was another like very complex character who I truly, truly loved. I don't feel like we often enough get that truly honorable hero at the center of our stories these days. Like I
Mhm.
know, I mean, all of us, we like a bad boy. We like a morally gray, dark king now and then. I mean, I'm a woman too, but I really love how he stands out in the crowd as a result. He has his dark side. I mean, he is the literal shadow king, but who he actually is so sterling. It's
Mhm.
just can he find the right path to go down? That's the main question for him. So yeah, again,
Yeah.
a very interesting character to write about, somebody I really, really enjoyed, which is why this book ended up being three. Originally, it was going to be a little standalone, just a cute little romance. But then these characters, they caught my heart
Yeah.
so violently almost that I had to tell more about them.
So you took what was going to be a standalone and you turned it into a trilogy.
Into a trilogy.
So it expanded the world
It
expanded that
expanded.
much for you in the
hmm
drafting of it.
Oh
That's
yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh wow. At what point did you know that that was happening? Pretty
I
quickly
was
or
I was partway through. I want to say I was halfway through what I thought was going to be the single book. And that halfway point was actually the climax of what is now book two. But
ah
book one and book two, like the storyline was so condensed, it didn't feel like it had room to breathe. And I felt very unsettled. I felt like I'm not doing these characters justice. I'm not doing this world justice. Like there's so much more to explore here. And I was a little resistant. I had newborn twins at the time. And
oh.
I literally was like, I don't have time to make this more complicated. But the minute I allowed myself to like question the premise, like question, does this need to be a standalone? Do I just need to like write this quickly and put it out, not think about it? The moment I let myself ask those questions, the story began to reveal itself to me in very new, very exciting ways. And honestly, it wasn't that much longer after that. As soon as I asked myself, should I split this up? It was like a day or two later. I had three outlines. Everything made so much sense. And I was truly, truly excited about the story again.
And there, folks, is the reason why sometimes it pays to follow your gut. Because
Amen to
when
that.
you
Yep.
think about what would have happened if you had just stuck to your guns and said, "No, I don't have time.
I don't
This
have
has got to
time.
be
Yep.
one
Yep.
book." Some of these doors and things like that maybe would not have
Yeah, it
opened for
probably would
you.
not have opened. It would
Yeah,
have been a
yeah.
very, very different book at the end of it. And I'm not saying it would have been a bad book, but it would not have been this. It wouldn't
Hmm.
have been this complete story of my heart. It would have been something that I just kind of pushed
Yeah.
out because I felt like I needed to. And yeah, no, the end result, I'm so grateful. I love the story itself. It was worth writing just for itself. But then the opportunities that it has like opened up for me, I'm so grateful for.
And readers are grateful to you for them, so
Thank you.
obviously. Well, one of the things that I like to dive into on this show is finding the story's undercurrent with the author. It's that
Mm,
second beating heart of the story that actually flows beneath the lover's journey.
mm.
What would you say is the undercurrent flowing beneath Farain and Vor's story?
I think that their story is so much about her ability to accept love, like her ability to accept that he truly loves her for who she is and that she doesn't need to make herself into something else. And I think that that's actually a you'd think that would be easy. It's so nice to just receive love from somebody. But
Hmm.
when you're actually a scarred person and you've been raised like your whole life as she was to believe that she's not enough, she's not good enough, like her whole point for existence is to serve the other people in her family or to serve her kingdom, it's very hard for her to then see herself the way that he sees her. And
Hmm.
I do feel like that was a lot of her journey, a lot of her coming into her own strength was to allow herself to believe that she is worthy of that love. And then for him, so much of it is like allowing himself to choose that love. Like he felt it for her very early on. If you get
Hmm.
a chance to read the other two books in the series, you'll see he felt very
Yeah.
strongly for her very, very quickly. But allowing himself to actually choose that and choose it in a way that is going to actually like resonate with her, a way that she can actually, receive. It's an interesting journey for them because there is so much love and there's so much chemistry between them so quickly, and yet they don't have an easy journey. And so
Yeah.
much of it is because of the scars, because of the wounds that they carry from their own backgrounds. But
Hmm.
I think that's also what makes the love story so poignant. It's not just the thrilling touches. It's not just
Right.
the glances and the kisses. It's those moments where they finally are finding their way to connection that just it makes it such a worthwhile story.
And that's exactly why I asked this question
Mm,
over and over and over, because those who might be a little skeptical about romance and maybe haven't read a romance, and they have certain opinions about romance.
about romance
There,
novels, yes.
yes, exactly. Romance novels, exactly. There is so much more to the story than the 25 pages of intimacy that you would
Yep.
find in a 350-page book or so,
Right, right.
right?
It's so true.
So there is so much depth to these stories, and that's what I'm trying to get out to readers and folks is just, pick one up, give it a whirl. You're going to find
Yeah.
that there's just so much more there to
Yeah.
enjoy and love. Absolutely.
Yeah, read what's actually in front of you. Don't read what you assume it is.
Exactly.
Let the story be what it
Yes.
actually is. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
No, I
Well,
love that.
well, you mentioned a little earlier talking about pulling out two or three tropes or three or four tropes and using those on the different platforms to help promote the book. What would you say are the tropes for this particular story?
Well, definitely the arranged marriage trope. In this one, we also have in book one, there's the bride swap where he believes he's marrying one bride, but there's a
Yeah.
different bride is presented to him,
Yeah.
and that leads to all kinds of drama.
Yeah.
Also I don't know if it counts as a trope so much as a theme, but like the coming into her power.
Okay.
That's very much an ongoing theme in the story, and that's one I hit on TikTok pretty frequently. Is that she's growing into herself here. But yeah, as far as like the romance tropes are concerned, there's a lot of classic ones. There's the only one horse trope, as they say, where we have to share a saddle, and that leads to interesting times. And there's
Yeah.
definitely some only one bed moments, and there's just some delightful little things like that along the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Great. 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 Is there a romance book that you've read recently that you really loved that you would like to share with our audience?
So oddly enough, I don't read a lot of fantasy romance, but I love romance.
Hmm.
So one that I read recently that I just absolutely gobbled up was actually a historical romance that was called A Girl Called Samson, and it's by Amy Harmon. And it is based on a true story, set in the Revolutionary War about a real life woman who really literally did this, like dressed up as a man and went and fought in the American Revolution. And and you wouldn't think that that's the stuff of a love story, but the love story in this book was so juicy and so delicious. And the tension between her and I didn't even see who the hero was going to be at first. He's kind of a surprise hero, but oh, he's
Uh,
dreamy. He's so wonderful. I loved this book. I have been telling everybody in my life to read this book. It's definitely not like your standard romance novel because there's a lot of history in it too, but really at its heart, it's a romance novel. So
okay.
I highly recommend. I love basically anything by Amy Harmon, though. She has also written some wonderful fantasy romances, but she writes all the genres and they're
Oh,
all wonderful.
Good for her. That's so hard to do, to
It
jumping from
is.
voice to voice, isn't it?
I can't even imagine it, but she pulls it off.
Good
So
for her. All right,
yeah.
great. Well, before we go, can you give us a hint of what's up next? Is there any exciting projects you can tell us about?
Well, we just announced, my publisher Ace just announced my upcoming Romantasy release, which is my first trad exclusive release. So this one is not published independently elsewhere. This is entirely Ace's book. And it's called The Seventh Champion. And it is very basically, it is an assassin falls for his mark story.
Oh,
And it is
love it.
absolutely delightful. This one I had so much fun with. I took it a slightly more, I wouldn't say it's a comedy, but it's a more comedic sort of bent. Like it's a
Okay,
little bit, it's a very
lighter.
bright story. And it's a
Yeah.
fun contrast because he is a very dark and brooding assassin. And she is a complete sunshine, like just the sweetest, sunshiniest person. She loves small, fluffy animals. And then he is this like he's this dark, scarred person. And it's just delight. It's so much fun.
Okay, so you
So
got the
that one is
grumpy
coming
sunshine
the grumpy
trope covered, right?
sunshine
Yeah.
to the max. It's
All
delightful. I
right.
had so much fun writing it. And so that's coming in November from Ace. And I am currently, as of this week, I started writing the sequel, which will be coming next November. So I am like
Okay.
diving back into that world and those characters right now.
All right, great. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that one.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Folks, when this episode airs, Heart of the Shadow King will be out, so be sure to order your copy today. You can check out Sylvia's website at sylviamercedesbooks.com.
Mhm.
Sylvia, what social media are you most active on? We know TikTok, we know Instagram. Any others, or those are the main ones for you?
Really, mostly these days, it's TikTok and Instagram. I
Okay.
am on Facebook a little bit. I have a little group and I post things there too. And I have a like a private Facebook group that you can ask to be part of where we talk about behind the scenes things and where I'll reveal like art and cover art and things like that just exclusively for that group. So you can hunt that one up on Facebook if you like. And that's called the Sylvia Mercedes Fantasy Romance Team, basically.
Okay.
But I mean, mostly it's Instagram and TikTok.
Okay. Well, Sylvia, thank you so much for joining me. This was just so much fun to talk to you and to read. Thank you for this wonderful book. If I get time, I'm doing a lot of reading these days, but if I
I'm
get
sure
time, I'm
you
going to go
are.
back and check out the first two in the
Awesome.
series for sure.
Awesome.
And congratulations on the relaunch of the series. That's
Thank
got to be
you.
super exciting.
It's very, yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was super fun. Great
Good.
questions.
Good, good. Well, many thanks to everyone listening. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Undercurrents of Romance. You can find more information about the show at tracydevlyn.com/podcast. Undercurrents of Romance is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I'll be back soon with another great romantic read. In the meantime, enjoy the adventure, everyone.